Many of the founders that I speak with tell me that they have a marketing problem. They've tried agencies, they've tried outbound messaging, they've tried posting on LinkedIn, and growth is still flat at worst or lumpy at best. But when we dig into it, it's almost always a messaging problem. And in this video, I want to show you exactly what that means. And instead of being very theoretical, I'm going to give you a live teardown of a real B2B landing page and show you how I would improve it as a CMO from a market resonance perspective. And what I want to do here is I want to start with a definition. So market resonance is what happens when your ideal buyer comes across your messaging and it feels like you've been listening to their internal dialogue. So they recognize themselves in the before state that you're talking about, the challenges or the pain points that you're talking about. They deeply want the after state or the transformation that you're talking about. So the outcomes and goals that you talk about. And they adopt your thesis as if it's their own, which is just your way of seeing the problem that you're talking about. So when you have resonance, growth starts to feel very effortless. You start to see things like sales calls with your ideal customers just show up in your calendar without having to do much, without having to sort of work and strive for them. You find that your content starts turning naturally into great conversations with people that you can really help. You might have people DMing you and saying, oh, you exactly described my situation, or what you're saying really resonates with me. And then the calls themselves that you have, the sales consultations that you have with people, they don't feel like sales calls. They just feel like a continuation of the conversation that you've already been having in their head. And then when you don't have resonance, it's the complete opposite. So growth is going to feel really hard, like you're pushing a boulder uphill. You're going to feel like you're doing marketing, but not really growing. So you're posting content, you're creating newsletters, you're hiring marketing managers, you're hiring agencies, you're running webinars, but nothing meaningful ever seems to come of it. People might say, oh, that's interesting, and then sort of disappear and ghost you. Or at worst, you just feel invisible. It's crickets. No one's even noticing that you exist. And so you just end up doing more and more activity for kind of less and less in return. And that's what I mean when I say that it's not a marketing problem, because it's a messaging problem. And if you have the right message, all of your marketing will start to be effective. And yet without it, none of your marketing is really going to work in the way that you want it to. So let me give you a real tangible example here with a real landing page from a real B2B company. The example I'm going to use here is from a company called Eaton Square, who I've just managed to come across. They operate in HR, people, and kind of payroll system space. And I believe their business model revolves around helping organizations choose, set up, and optimize HR systems. And just to be clear, I'm not criticizing this company. I don't know them. I don't know how good they are at what they do. I don't know anything. I'm just using them as an example because in my experience, 99% or 95% of B2B companies are making the same mistakes that they're making. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this page and I'm going to look at it through the lens of if I'm a prospective buyer. So what I want to do is I want to start with what they're doing well. And I would say this website looks and feels credible. You can tell they're an established business. You can tell they've been around for a little while. So there's some good positive things here. But right away, I'm looking at this through the lens of market resonance, and I'm thinking the headline of real people, real expertise, real results. I don't know what that means. And this is very typical of what I see for B2B companies. It's like that could describe pretty much every company in the world. And so it doesn't speak to me if I am a prospective customer of theirs and if I'm looking to potentially buy from them. And it talks about consulting and the difference between them and faceless consulting. Again, pretty much every consulting firm in the world could say something very similar to this. So there's nothing really that makes this stand out if I am a prospective customer of theirs. And continuing on down the page here, it is quite generic, right? It's advise, implement, and run. Again, that could be pretty much any consulting firm in the world could say that. There's nothing specific about what they advise on, who they advise for, how they do it differently to other partners in the space, and so on and so forth. Like, what's their unique thesis or unique approach to this? So, for example, I'm imagining, let's say I'm the ideal buyer of a company like this. So, again, I'm guessing that's probably a senior HR person, like an HR director, a head of people, maybe a kind of CFO, maybe sometimes even a CEO of a smaller business. And let's say I'm landing on this page and I have a pain point around wanting to improve my HR systems or my HR processes. I'm going to be thinking, is this for someone like me? Do they understand where I am right now? Do they have a clear point of view as to why I'm experiencing pain right now? And why would I talk to these guys versus every other sort of HR, payroll, technology partner in the world? So I'm looking at the hero section, and to be honest, I don't know who this is for. I also don't really have clarity here in terms of the problems that they're solving. So, for example, again, I'm putting myself in the shoes of an HR director right now. Probably some of my challenges are going to be, I've got outdated technology and outdated systems. I've got manual workarounds, and I use spreadsheets to do things instead of having a system do it for me. I've probably got the job of like 3 people, and I'm trying to do that in one working week. I might have some fear of getting it wrong because there's really big consequences. For example, getting payroll wrong or things like that. I've probably got problems around, I've tried new softwares and new partners and new technology in the past, and it hasn't worked. So I'm not seeing any of this on the landing page at the moment. It's very much about Eaton Square and them as a company, and it's not really about the customer. So in my opinion, the ICP as in who this is for is not necessarily clear. The before state as in the challenges and the pain point is not necessarily clear. And then the after state is not necessarily clear either. So this is where we need to give our customers a vivid picture of what it looks like after working with them. So for example, you might say, reduce stress and happier employees. It might be one consolidated system with all of the data you need at your fingertips. It might be easier reporting. It might be looking great when you're presenting to the board. All of these kinds of things, and none of it is really articulated here on the page. So I'm kind of left thinking, do they know what I want to achieve? And are they the right people to deliver it? The final pieces would be like, do I know how they're different from other companies? And what's their thesis? How do they see the world? There's lots of different companies doing similar things. How is this organization different? And how do they see the world differently to some of the other companies in the market? Again, at the moment, I'm not really seeing this on their website, and I definitely would want to see that. So finally, and I think the most important part of this is just the type of language that is being used here. And again, this is such a common problem that I come across all the time, which is that all of the language is around we. It's about we help organizations, we provide these services, we're not faceless consultants, etc., etc. And it's not about you, the customer. So for me, there's not a whole lot on this page that makes an ideal buyer think they know me, they're describing my situation perfectly, and they know exactly what I want, and I'm going to contact them. And that is the gap for me at the moment. So enough poking holes in this. Let me talk about what I would do if I was writing this page, or how I would think about writing this page. So let's start with the hero section, because it does carry a lot of weight. And if I was rewriting this hero, here's how I'd think about it. I want a headline and a subheadline that gets people's attention, clearly shows who it's for, gives idea of the pain that group of people are in, and specifically talks about the outcome that we want to promise. So instead of something relatively generic like we have now, it's something like helping HR leaders replace outdated HR and payroll systems without breaking your people or your payroll. And that's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it gives people an opportunity to say, for the right person, okay, I am in HR, I'm an HR leader. Yes, I do want to update our systems. And yes, my fear is that payroll systems might break, or I might upset employees or whatever. And that's the outcome that I want to achieve. So we've kept the spirit of what they do the same, but we've added a bit more clarity in terms of who they are speaking to, the before state, and then the after state. And I think this alone could really help. Like if an ideal buyer lands on the website and the first thing they do is check out your hero, your headline, and if they think, okay, this might be us, then that's a really good sign, and they might read further or they might look at your case studies or whatever. Now I want to just move through 3 simple sections that I'd either add or improve to create more of a market resonance on this page. So the first one is all about the before state. So the job of this section is to put that before state in the buyer's language. So again, let me try this for Eaton Square, and I'm just riffing here, but it might sound something like, you've outgrown your current HR and payroll system, and you feel like it's being held together by spreadsheets and manual workarounds. You're nervous about the risk of changing systems. You don't want to miss pay runs. You don't want to have your employees being angry or damage your reputation. You might have been burned by a vendor or a partner who didn't understand how your organization actually works, or you don't have the internal capacity to run complex implementation on top of business as usual. And for the right person, if that's phrased correctly and if it's the right before state points, they're going to nod along and they're going to say, yes, that's exactly our situation. And that's exactly what market resonance feels like. It's not just we do X, it's we understand you, we understand your world. And then another section that I would add is something around thesis, which could be something along the lines of why HR and payroll projects fail. And so this is where you move to selling your worldview or selling your thesis. So it's not here's what we do as an organization. It's here's what we believe as an organization and the problems that we see in our space and why it usually doesn't work. So for example, it could be something along the lines of most projects don't fail because of the software. They fail because of poor implementation or poor change management or poor process design. You can't just install a system. You have to align people, process, policy, teams, etc., to make it an effective HR change management program or technology change management program. And the partner that you choose needs to understand your organization first, and then the technology is secondary to that. We're now saying, here's our worldview and what it takes to basically get this right. So if someone reads this section, the thesis section, and they think, yes, that's exactly why I'm in the state I'm in, or that's exactly why the last project was so painful, you just move them from being aware of you into the thesis adoption stage. They're now starting to see your worldview and it's starting to come to life in their world. And the third thing that I would look to tighten is the conversion, right? It's like what happens next if someone wants to learn more. Again, a lot of B2B sites have something really, really generic, like a contact us button. And typically what happens is you contact them and then they reach out to you to schedule a call. So often you can skip that whole process by just putting a calendar on your website. If you're getting a high volume of leads, you obviously probably want to vet some of those leads before they come through. So you might want a form or something beforehand and have the ability to cancel calls with spam and so on and so forth. But I think the bit that's really missing here is something clear. So for example, what are they to do and what happens next? So, let's say step 1 is a diagnostic call. So we understand where you are right now in terms of your HR and payroll goals. Step 2 is to outline a roadmap and some options. And then step 3 is to talk about what an implementation or a partnership could look like. So you just want something really clear on the website in terms of what is going to happen when someone fills out a form, and just a really clear next step so that it's easy for them to know what's coming next and it's easy for them to take that step. So if I zoom out and just look at this, this whole process of analyzing this website, I haven't changed anything about the business. Like I haven't changed their services. I haven't changed their team, haven't changed their experience, haven't changed the clients that they've worked with. All I've tried to do is change the message. So who the page is speaking to, how they clearly describe that before state and that after state, and how explicitly the kind of thesis is positioned so that ideally the ideal customer can just nod along with that. And then ideally we clearly articulate the what happens next. So what should people do if they resonate with that thesis? And that's really the difference between market resonance and just a landing page that's just taking up space on the internet. So changing the message can have a huge impact on your results overall. So hopefully this is useful for you. I thought it would be fun to maybe see some more websites and do some more teardowns. So if your business is in this state at the moment where you feel like your messaging and your website is not really resonating with your target customers, please feel free to send it over to me. And I'm more than happy to talk to you about how I would think about optimizing it and potentially even create some content for you for free to show you how I would optimize that landing page. And let me know if you think I should do more of these teardowns. If you do want help growing your business, if you do want help finding market resonance, as we talk about, then you can book in a free consult with me. I'm more than happy to talk about your business and explore some ways that you can potentially grow it. You'll find a link somewhere here on the page or on our website. But thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next video.